Hey, what's up, guys? So I'm Rafif from TheStrongestEver Instagram and YouTube, and I wanted to talk about like 5 things that allowed me to put 50 pounds on my deadlift, and did so in like 1 to 2 months time. And the thing is that there were changes that like weren't necessarily that difficult, and are pretty repeatable, and that I could teach someone and they could get the same results. So these were like five small changes that I made that like really made massive difference in my deadlift, and I'll teach them to you. And they're very simple, and you should be able to implement them and see big results pretty quickly. I saw that what kind of got my deadlift from like the 400s range to mid 400s, and then from mid 400s to 500s was very small changes, where like before, when I started lifting, to get from 300s to 400s was just like a lot of really hard work, but from getting to 400s to 500 was like little changes, a little like smart things, like doing things a little bit better and changing my form in certain ways, and doing different things with straps or with techniques, and different programming things. So that's kind of some ideas on it. I'll get to the breakdown. Like 5 tips that should be able to add like 50 pounds to your deadlift in a couple months or less. The first is rounding your upper back. So like when you see rounding this part of your back, like when you deadlift, a lot of the time you're straight like this, right? But what you do is you kind of have, you can have your lats in your front pockets. So like you kind of like bring your front delts here and then right here, and my lower back is still straight, but then my upper back is like in the front. So like this would be regular, and then it's right here, and then up. And when they're in that front pocket position, if you're still coming up, you get a lot less range of motion. I think that was one thing that made like a huge difference, is that I saw like a lot of the elite lifters, if you look at Lamar Gant or what's his name, Vincenello, these are some old school lifters, but I think a lot of newer lifters too, if you see them, they're not going to be a straight deadlift like this, where they're just, their back's like this. Instead of straight, they were gonna kind of have it like right here in the front. When I started to do that, because I used to focus on having perfect deadlift technique where I was just very straight like this, but then once I started to round just my upper back, then I saw that suddenly my range of motion is way less, and it takes way less to lock out. So that was like one little cue change that I made, and I did this for both sumo and for conventional, where I just put my lats into my front pockets, like right here, and then that made like a huge difference into doing that, into kind of being able to lift more. And then the reason is that the range of motion is just way less all of a sudden. So that's number one. A second thing, and this is tricky, and it's, you wouldn't expect it, but yeah, one thing that I started doing was training with straps more, but doing it in a specific way. So training with straps, the advantage is that you basically you can lift more weight than you could without straps. And you might say that it's cheating, but I say that it's not cheating, it's a tool. You want to use both. You use hands and you use straps, and when you do use straps, you use it in a way that you use the straps to be able to lift more, do more volume with heavy weight, and then come when you're doing weight with just your hands again, it's a lot easier. But this is the key. When I did straps, I did it in a certain like new way, and I have a strap here, and I'll show you a different way of doing it that will like, it's ridiculous. Like you can lift way more weight like this, and I saw this for myself and different people I taught this to. So usually when people strap, by the way, I learned this from different people, seeing them doing this. I think Chris Duffin talked about it, but yeah, look, when you strap, what do you usually do? You usually go like this once and then twice, right? And then you grab that. But instead of that, it will be 2 things, okay? Instead of doing it that way, go once like this, and the second time, instead of going this way, you go back the other way. So it would be like this, and kind of instead of going the same way around, the second time you go back the other way and you crisscross them like this, okay? So usually guys will tend to go like this and grab it. It's secure, sure, but ideal is like this. Hold on 1 second. Instead of that way, crisscross it. And when you crisscross it and you're over it, suddenly it's like twice as secure. So that was like one huge thing that I did with straps. And then when it's twice as secure, it's not gonna come out. You can do more weight. It's that simple, you know? That's like a huge thing. If you look at Chris Duffin and you watch how he lifts, his straps are like that. And it's like they're just like glued to your hand, okay? And just doing that allowed me to do a lot more with straps. I was able to rep 405 for like 7 or 8 reps, whereas before I could only do a couple of reps. And that's weighing under 150 pounds. Like, the straps made a huge difference where if I'm strapped in correctly like that, then it's secure, it's not going to slip out, and I can do more reps. And it's easier to do more versus like that. It feels like I'm pulling more of the weight. When the strap is locked in like that, it feels like you're pulling less of the weight. The second huge thing with straps that I'll say, and this is like tip number 2 or 3, is that when I said like you go like this, and instead of like this, you go like this, and then the second time you loop around the other way, right? Okay, so you loop around that way. Second is that when you do that, instead of grabbing it like this, you grab it with a thumbless grip. This, I saw it instantly just puts like 20 or 30 pounds to my lift. I don't know if that's because, I think it's because you're using different muscles. I don't know if it will be this significant for everyone else, but I've seen just any people that I've taught this to in the gym or to friends of mine, they've put like 10 to 20 pounds right away on their deadlift just by switching to straps with a thumbless grip like this versus with thumbs. A lot of the best lifters in the world have used a thumbless grip, you know, and it's such a small thing, you wouldn't notice it. But if you look at Chris Duffin deadlift, if you look at like the Mountain Hafthor Bjornsson, if you look at his deadlift with straps, and a number of other lifters, they'll use thumbless with straps, you know, and there's a reason for it. It's like it's the same thing I said. It's kind of like having it like glued to your hands versus like you like grabbing it and pulling the weight yourself. It's like it's glued to your hands and you can just come up, you know. It's like attached to it in that way. It makes a huge difference just doing these little things. Like I was doing crazy weights without having to train for it, without having to do really anything, just by changing these little things. So one, as I said, was straps. Instead of like this, straps, you kind of crisscross it. You try to get it as thick as possible, thick, so that you can just have it like this, and it's like it's really tight, really secured, and it's like attached to your hands. It's not like you're really grabbing it and pulling it. It's just like it's like glued to your hand or something, you know, and it's comfortable and it's easy. And then the second thing is that when you've looped it like that, use a thumbless grip instead of thumbs, you know. Your regular would be like this, thumbless is like this. You can't do this grip and hold it if you're not using straps. But if you're training with straps and you do it the loop way I said, and you do it like this, you'll be able to do it and it'll be really, really strong. Okay. So that's a couple things. What else? Another thing is extending my arms. So I said one was like putting it in the front pockets. Second was kind of, it's kind of hard to show this. Let me see. But like, so you're like this. You can lengthen your arms. So instead of right here, you make that, put it in the front pockets and then lengthen it like that. Lengthening your arms so that they're like actually longer, that makes like a huge difference. You put it in your front pockets and then you kind of lock out like your elbows like this, and then lock out your forearms, and then when you do it like that, it's like your arms are lengthened, and it's very easy at that point to kind of generate a good pull, and your arms are longer, and it makes you have better leverages than you just typically would. And you can use this for conventional and you can use this for sumo. When you do that, yeah, you just kind of, you already have your lats in your front pockets, and then you lock out more, and then lengthen at your shoulders and at your elbows, lock out the forearms, and you can make your deadlift like easier that way because you improve your levers a lot. An example of a lifter who you can see do this, I think Pete Rubish kind of does this. I think, what's his name? Richard Hawthorne, the ant. You can see him do it a lot where he locks out and it looks like he has great leverages, but really he's like just locking out his forearms a lot more and like extending his arms a lot more. When you do this, you have to make sure that it's done in a way where it's straight, where you're not putting pressure on your biceps, so your arm is entirely straight like this, but done correctly, like you just lengthen a little more. You just kind of come here and extend your arms a little more so that you have like longer arms versus not, and you lock out right here at your shoulder and at your elbow, and with longer arms you get a better pull, and it's a lot easier like that, you know. So a couple other things that I did. One small one is it's kind of like playing with my form a little bit. So like I saw that if I brought my sumo out wider and I brought my stance wider, so like before I would pull, let me see, before I would pull just like right here, but then instead when I brought it like right here, suddenly my lockout is right there, versus right here I have to come all this way like that, versus wider right here. So just deciding to bring it in wider and try a wider form for sumo allowed me to pull a lot more. And then I think for conventional too, just doing little things, maybe bringing my stance in a little bit, allowed me to pull more. So I think making little form changes like that with your stance and your foot placement and how wide or not you are, that can put easily like another 5 or 10 pounds like overnight on your deadlift. That's a huge thing, is just the tiny little form changes, either bringing your stance wider or closer, and then bringing it, feet together or feet like just a little wider apart. And this is true both for conventional and for sumo. Just playing with your form in like tiny little ways like that has like a big difference. Okay, so I said 5 tips. Two of the last tips. I think that making huge changes on your deadlift like overnight comes to just a couple of things. One is form and like doing little different things with form. The second is programming, you know. And I saw like a huge thing that made a huge difference in my deadlift was programming for both higher reps and lower reps. Because what we'll tend to do is program for one or the other. Some guys will do a lot of low reps and not do higher reps, and then other guys will do higher reps but not max out enough or get close to like max weight enough. And I think it's important to have both. In my own programming, I would have both, where you're doing low reps and high reps. What it would look like is like I have one day a week where I'm doing a set of like 10 to 20, and each week I'm adding on weight to it, and then that set of 10 to 20 would be like touch and go. And then what that forces me to do is keep tension, keep form, while keep myself braced, keep tension, keep the form while doing higher reps. And then that kind of builds like an endurance, and it kind of builds your reps in that way, you know. And as your reps go up, then your 1 rep max goes up. But I don't only train high reps, like I also make sure that I train low reps. So one day a week would be higher reps, and then each week I'm adding one weight to that, and then the second week would be doing lower reps, where it's like a set of 5, a heavy set of 5, or a couple sets of 5, where it's pretty heavy and it's dead stop usually, and then each week I'm adding on more weight to that. So the dead stop would look like, okay, one week I do 355 for 5, the next week 375 for 5, the next week 395 for 5, the next week 405 for 3 or something, you know. And that's good form, heavy, and it's like dead stop, so like one and then another, because it's pretty close to your 1 rep max. So because of that, you want to do each one as like a dead stop one, and then the next, and then the next. But then the higher rep stuff, that's like 225 for 20, 245 for 20, 255 for 20, 275 for 20, and that would be like 10 to 20 reps, maybe a couple of sets, and then that would build your endurance, and it would build your high reps so that your body is more conditioned to kind of lift more weight, and you can handle more, and your high rep maxes are going up. So before maybe I did like 355 for 10. The next cycle I do like 375 or 385 for 10, and I know that got stronger too. And in this way, training both low reps and high reps, that made like a huge difference in what I could lift, like programming wise, because otherwise I saw that if I was doing just high reps and I didn't do any low reps, by the time it started to get heavy, then I was kind of done and I couldn't handle the low reps. And then I saw the opposite, that if I did low reps but I didn't do high reps, I didn't have much endurance and I couldn't rep out any of the heavy weights for more than I should be able to, you know? So that's a huge thing that will add a lot to your deadlift, is like whatever you're training or programming you're doing, make sure you have both high reps and low reps in your deadlift training. Um, and if you have just one and not the other, I'd recommend that you write in both. Um, and then just like the last thing, like one or two last things, one that added like a lot to to my deadlift, and it could add to yours too, is that if I um, for like a training cycle, if you can afford this and you're not doing a competition anytime soon, which I no one's doing competition anytime soon because of everything going on, but a huge thing is just axing your squat, getting rid of your squat completely, and just focusing on deadlift. If you do that, your deadlift gets all the gains that you would get usually training squat and deadlift, and it will go up. And the thing with that is, if you did that, let's say you just stop squatting for like 2 months and you just deadlift like twice a week, that will add to your deadlift, but it will add to your deadlift in a way that later on when you start squatting again, you'll get to keep all the gains that you made, you know? So it's like a short-term sacrifice, but you get to keep everything that you do in that time period, you know? Um, so because of that, it's like pretty valuable, I think. Um, and you should try that out. It's really simple, but like maybe do a deadlift only program or write something out where you just deadlift twice a week for like 4 to 8 weeks or more, like a couple months, 1 or 2 months or more, and don't do any squat and just deadlift twice a week instead. That will be like focus. You're focusing on one lift, and that will bring one lift up like a lot, and it will do it in a really short amount of time, really quickly, really easily, and you'll be able to repeat that process, you know. And then the very last thing I'll say is that the thing that helped to add 50 pounds to my deadlift in 1 to 2 months, and that I think is this last step is very easy to do, is to program with have some stuff where I'm doing like super heavy weight, but from like partial distance, you know. So like doing either a block pull or a rack pull, and then sometimes doing holds, you know. So I've done rack pulls past 700 pounds, and that's like from my knees, you know, and and it's a lot more than I can pull off the floor, but it's not like in a dumb way really, and it's not something that is like ego weight. I think that it carries over a lot to your main lift. The reason that you do heavy weight and you hold it, or you do heavy weight for like a lot, is that it conditions your body to be holding super heavy weight. So like later on when you're lifting 400 pounds or 500 pounds, your body's conditioned and it's used to it because you've already held like 600 pounds in your hand, or you've done 600 for 5 off of like a block pull or off of a rack pull. um, I think that's huge. So like you do some working sets and some volume of just working sets, or just holds, straight holds for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds with super heavy weight. That's like a good 100 to 200 pounds more than your max. That can be as a block pull, as a hold just off of heavy, off of like high racks or pins, and it can be like a 30-second hold or something, or it can be like a few sets of 5 of like 600 pounds or 500 pounds or whatever, like a lot more than your max, but from a partial distance. So like from your knees, maybe below your knees, or like a little above your knees. And you don't want to go too far above your knees because you're not really you're not translating over to the main lift at that point. But other than that, partials help a lot. I think either from blocks or from a rack, and having some of that like written in your training so that your body is used to heavier weight, your CNS is used to heavier weight, so that when your training starts to get heavy, you'll never be doing heavier weight that you can't handle and that you're not accustomed to. You'll just be able to kind of do it because your body is conditioned to it at that point. So those are 5, maybe a little more than 5 tips, and they're huge. And like apply those tips, you will put on 50 pounds to your deadlift in 1 to 2 months. Okay, it's I've been doing this for years, and it's worked for me, and it's worked for the people that I've taught. It's worked for my clients, and it's worked for my friends, and it's worked for people online that I suggested it to. These are little things, but like if you make these little changes, it can make a huge difference. And to recap, like it was wearing the straps, doing the straps so that it's looped like the other way, doing the thumbless grip. What else? Like rounding your upper back, lengthening your arms, and doing different little form changes. And then when you program, making sure you program for high weight, heavy weight, and lighter weight. And then um, the last thing too, that you do some partials too. So some partials with like heavyweight, and do them from like mid distances from your like shins or your knees or something. You don't have to apply all of these changes, but even just a few of them will add massive amounts to your lift. I think 50 pounds to your deadlift in 1 to 2 months is very realistic, and just apply the changes that I suggested. Like a lot of people will learn this stuff and not apply it, but it's to your advantage to apply it, really. Um, so that's kind of my thoughts, like on the topic. If you guys want to see what a program like this looks like, I'll link a program down below, and you can get it. I'll link it as like something cheap, just like $1 or $5, so that you guys can get it, and it's not expensive, and you can look and see what like a program like this will look like. And then I think I might have it for deadlift and for squat, but like you can, I'll link below like a program so you can check it out and see what it's like. And I'm not really like trying to sell anything, but it's just like I don't care, like, or you can check it out, and then and if you like it, that's great, and if you don't like it, just message me, and like I'll let you keep the program, and like I'll just give you your $1 back or $5 back, like a 90-day refund, whatever, like if you check it out and you don't like it or it doesn't work for you, you can just message me. I won't ask any questions. I'll give you your money back. But for like cheap or maybe for free, I'll like link like a program down looking at showing what your deadlift should be like, and what programming would like look like for this, and how to kind of structure your training so that it works. If you're interested in seeing what that would look like and what like a full training block of that would look like, you can check it out below, and I'll make sure that it's like cheap or free. And like if you don't like it, yeah, just message me. I'll give you your money back, and you can just keep it. But I think like either try to write something like out like this yourself, or check out what I have below. And you need to do this, like it's because I've done this for years. All this stuff that I learned, it took me years to learn, and it's a lot of pain and like a lot of years behind it. And now like I'll take a guy who's been lifting for like 1 year, and I'll teach him these things, and like he's making like something that took me 6 or 7 years, 8 years, 9 years to learn. He's learning it in like a year, and it's like, oh, I wish I'd paid more attention to someone who like has the experience or years behind it, and like listen to what they said, so that I can make those gains ahead of time. So I'd say just try stuff out yourself. Try writing something like this out yourself, or try the stuff that I have below and just check it out, and try running like my program, or your own program, running the tips that I suggested, and you should make great gains. I think anyone can do it, and anyone honestly can put on 50 pounds to their deadlift in 1 to 2 months. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time. Feel free to check out what I have below if you're interested, and make sure that you write this out yourself, because I really wish someone had told me this, and like I want to share it just so it helps someone out, and like they can lift a lot more weight doing this. It's really not that hard to add like 50 pounds to your lift in just 1 to 2 months, and then once you add that weight, you can keep that for like the rest of your life. And it doesn't have to take that much time, and just making little changes like this can add like a huge amount to your lift. So that's it. I'll talk to you guys next time.